The alien queen was moments from death, until one human warrior risked his life. The planet lay in ruins. Smoke and fire rose from the once lush forests, twisting into the dull, gray sky. Craters scarred the surface, some still smoking from recent blasts. The distant hum of alien war machines rumbled across the horizon, reminding every living being that death was never far away here. Captain Elias Kane crouched behind the jagged remains of a fallen tower, scanning the battlefield with sharp, steady eyes. Dust clung to his armor and sweat ran down his brow, but he did not falter. Years of war had taught him how to stay calm, even when death hovered close. His human squad had fallen one by one over the past days, leaving only him and a handful of surviving soldiers. They had been sent to this remote planet to end the war once and for all, to kill the alien queen whose horde had destroyed countless colonies across the galaxy. Elias' gaze shifted to the battlefield ahead. At the center of the chaos, the queen writhed in pain, trapped by a group of elite alien hunters. Her scales glimmered even in her wounded state, a dark green that shimmered like polished stone. She had lost limbs, and streams of dark fluid dripped onto the ground. Around her, her guards fought valiantly, trying to protect her from the human artillery pounding the area. Yet Elias noticed something no one else did. In the queen's eyes, amidst the pain and fury, there was intelligence. There was fear, but also something else, something almost human. He blinked. He knew he should not think like this. She was the enemy. She had killed billions. She had to die. "Captain Kane," a voice crackled in his comms. It was Lieutenant Riker, barely audible over the battle. "The final strike is ready. Authorization received. Target locked." Elias swallowed hard. Every instinct screamed that this was the moment humanity would end the war. He should give the order. He should pull the trigger. But another part of him, an instinct buried deep, hesitated. The queen looked at him, and for a fraction of a second it felt as though she were asking for help. Elias shook his head violently, trying to rid himself of the thought. It was impossible. She was an alien monster. Empathy was dangerous. Yet before he could respond to Riker, a sudden explosion rocked the ground near the queen. Dust and debris flew into the air, forcing soldiers on both sides to duck. In that instant, Elias made a decision that would change everything. He ran. Every muscle in his body burned as he sprinted across the open ground, dodging fallen debris and incoming fire. His squad shouted in alarm, some trying to stop him, but he did not listen. He dove in front of the queen, rolling across the scorched earth and taking the brunt of a blast meant to end her life. Pain seared through his shoulder, and he gritted his teeth, refusing to cry out. The world seemed to slow as the queen's eyes widened, not with anger but with recognition. She flinched at the explosion but did not move away. Instead, she lowered her massive, armored head, letting Elias drag her out of the line of fire. "Stay still," he growled through clenched teeth. His hands were steady despite the pain. "I've got you!" Around them, chaos raged. Alien hunters screamed and shrieked, fighting the remaining human soldiers. Explosions lit the sky, and a metallic scent of blood mixed with smoke. Elias could feel the queen trembling beneath his hands, her massive body weak and vulnerable. Yet she did not strike him. She seemed cautious, as if aware that her life now depended on this human. Elias' mind raced. Every second he hesitated meant death for both of them. He needed a plan, but the battlefield offered none. Only one option remained: retreat. He had to carry her to safety. Using his strength and the queen's slight cooperation, he pulled her toward a nearby ridge where the rock formations created a natural barrier from most of the gunfire. Each step was agonizing. The weight of her body was immense. He stumbled, but she steadied him with a nudge, almost imperceptible, but enough to prevent him from falling completely. Elias did not understand why she helped, only that she did. Finally, they reached the ridge. Elias dropped to one knee, gasping for breath. The queen lowered herself beside him, curling slightly, her breathing heavy and ragged. Elias reached for his comm, hands shaking. "Command," he whispered. "Abort the strike. Repeat, abort the strike. Target is compromised." Static hissed back at him. "Kane." What are you talking about? The queen is." "I said abort," he barked, cutting the comm. He could not let them know what he was doing. They would never understand. If the queen survived, it would be considered treason. But Elias did not care. Something told him this was right. For a few moments, neither moved. The battlefield seemed distant, muffled, as if the world itself held its breath. Elias looked at the queen and saw more than a monster. He saw a leader, a mother, a strategist. He saw the potential for something beyond war, a chance to end it differently, but danger was not gone. From the horizon, reinforcements were coming. The human coalition would not ignore a disobedient soldier. And the alien hunters, though diminished, still prowled the battlefield, searching for the wounded queen. Elias knew he had to move. Slowly, carefully, he helped the queen to her feet. Every step was agonizing, but he refused to stop. She leaned on him, and for the first time he felt a strange trust forming between human and alien. "Can you move?" he asked quietly. The queen's response was a low, resonant hum, almost like a purr. Elias took it as yes. It was not much, but it was enough. Together they began to retreat into the jagged terrain. Elias led the way, scanning constantly for threats. Every shadow could hide an enemy. Every rock could conceal a trap. Yet even in this moment of peril, a strange sense of purpose filled him. He had chosen to save a being everyone else saw as a monster. And maybe, just maybe, this choice could change everything. Hours passed. The battlefield grew distant, replaced by a desolate canyon filled with sharp rock formations and winding paths. Elias found a narrow cave, hidden from view. Here, at least for a while, they could catch their breath. He helped the queen inside and settled her against the cave wall. Her scales were warm, despite her wounds, and she exhaled slowly, the sound like a low, vibrating drum. Elias examined her injuries. Many were severe, limbs cracked, armor torn, but none seemed fatal if treated soon. "Hang on," he murmured. "I'll get you through this." The queen tilted her massive head, looking at him with eyes that seemed almost human in their expression. For the first time, Elias felt something he had not felt in years: hope. Perhaps this creature, this so-called monster, could help them understand something greater than war, but hope came with a price. Outside the cave, the sounds of pursuit grew louder. Alien hunters were searching, and human forces would soon notice the missing target. Elias realized that the moment he had saved her life, he had also painted a target on his own back, yet he did not flinch. He had made his choice. He had acted against orders, against instinct, against everything he had known. And as he looked at the wounded alien queen, he knew there was no turning back. The future was uncertain. The battlefield could wait. Allies and enemies alike would question his sanity. But Elias Kane, human warrior, had done the impossible. He had saved the being that everyone believed should die. And in doing so, he had lit the spark that could change the fate of two species, human and alien, forever. For now, they rested, but the war was far from over. Outside, the horizon burned with conflict, and beyond it, threats that neither human nor alien could yet imagine waited in the shadows. Elias tightened his grip on his weapon, scanning the cave entrance. The queen shifted slightly beside him, her low hum echoing off the stone walls. Together they would face what came next. Together they would survive. And perhaps together they could teach the galaxy something no one had yet learned. That courage, empathy, and a single choice could change everything. The cave was dark, damp, and silent except for the shallow breathing of the wounded alien queen and the heavy, ragged breaths of Captain Elias Kane. He sat nearby, hunched over a small medkit scavenged from the battlefield. His hands trembled slightly as he worked, cleaning the queen's injuries and applying makeshift bandages. He had never treated an alien before, but he had survived enough battles to improvise. The queen remained still for now, her massive head resting on the cave floor. Every so often she would shift slightly, and Elias would startle, expecting aggression, but it never came. Instead, she seemed aware, attentive, as if she were studying him as closely as he was studying her. Finally, Elias broke the silence. "You're lucky," he said quietly. "Most humans wouldn't be here right now. Most would have finished the job." A low hum vibrated through the cave. It was not a growl nor a snarl, it was deliberate. Elias froze. Could she understand him? Then, in a voice only he could hear, a voice formed inside his mind. "You saved me." Elias staggered back slightly, eyes wide. You can talk," he whispered aloud. "Not like you," the queen's thoughts continued. "But yes, I can reach those I choose. You are different." Elias swallowed hard. He had known aliens were intelligent, but this was beyond anything he had expected. Telepathy was rare, almost unheard of, except in the most advanced species. Different, he thought, trying to contain both fear and curiosity. "I'm not your enemy, human," the queen said. "Not entirely, and I need your help." Elias hesitated. "Why would I help you?" "You've killed billions of humans across the galaxy. Entire colonies." His voice trailed off. I was forced to fight, she replied, not by choice. My species manipulated, controlled by an outside force. You cannot see it yet, but it is real. I fight for survival. I fight to save my people. Her words hit Elias like a wave. He had been raised to believe the alien queen was a monster, a creature of pure destruction. But here she was, pleading, reasoning, almost human in thought. He nodded slowly. If what you say is true, then maybe we are not so different. Exactly, the queen said, though not aloud. We can end this together, but we must move. Soon they will come for us, both human and alien. Elias grabbed his weapon and peered toward the cave entrance. The horizon was still distant, smoke curling far into the sky, but faint movements in the distance suggested patrols were sweeping the area. They were not alone. He turned back to the queen. We'll need to travel at night. I can carry you when we move, but we have to stay hidden. The queen gave a small, affirmative hum. Elias did not fully understand it, but it felt like agreement. He helped her rise, supporting part of her weight as they moved toward a narrow tunnel in the back of the cave. It would be their secret path to safety. The journey was slow. Every step was a battle against exhaustion, every sound a potential threat. Elias' mind raced with plans. If he could get the queen to a safer location, perhaps he could uncover the truth she hinted at. Perhaps he could prove to the human command that not everything was as black and white as it seemed. Hours passed. Night fell fully, shrouding the jagged terrain in darkness. The stars were dim behind the haze of smoke, but they provided a faint map across the sky. Elias used them to guide their path, careful to avoid open areas. At one point, a distant patrol almost discovered them. A human squad, part of the coalition, moved swiftly through the rocky hills. Elias pressed the queen into a narrow crevice, heart hammering in his chest. The soldiers passed mere meters away, oblivious to the two figures hidden in the shadow. Elias exhaled slowly once they were gone. The queen hummed softly, and Elias imagined it was her way of acknowledging relief. After the patrol passed, he asked cautiously, "Who is manipulating your species? Who is making you fight wars you do not want?" "An intelligence far beyond us," she replied. "Not of our kind, ancient. It whispers orders, it sends commands. My people are its instruments. And now it seeks to destroy all who oppose it, including your species." Elias' jaw tightened. The scale of the threat was staggering. This was not just a war between humans and aliens. It was a war orchestrated by something neither of them fully understood. "We can stop it," the queen said, "but not alone. I need your courage. I need your strength. Together we might survive." Elias' mind flashed back to the battlefield, the faces of the fallen soldiers, the destruction, the fear. Yet he felt a strange calm. "Then we survive," he said. "And we end it together." She tilted her head slightly, as if approving. "Yes." The next day, the journey became even more dangerous. They traveled through narrow canyons where sunlight barely reached the ground. Predators, alien and otherwise, roamed freely. Elias fought off small creatures with his weapon, while the queen used her massive claws and instinct to defend against larger threats. Each encounter strengthened their silent bond. They relied on each other completely. At one point, they reached a dried riverbed. The sand shifted beneath their feet, leaving tracks. Elias paused. "If anyone follows us, they'll see these tracks. We need a way to cover them." The queen examined the sand, her instincts sharp. With a sweep of her tail, she flattened the tracks, blending them into the surroundings. Elias watched in awe. "You're incredible," he said. "We must survive to fight," she replied in his mind. As night fell again, they found shelter in a rocky outcrop. Elias made a small fire using scraps he had carried, careful to keep it minimal. The warmth was comforting, but he also knew it could give away their location. The queen did not need fire. Her body radiated heat, and she leaned against him in a way that felt protective rather than threatening. For hours, they rested. Elias' mind wandered. Could he trust her completely? Could the humans forgive him if they discovered the truth? He did not know. All he knew was that she had saved him from himself on the battlefield, just as he had saved her from death. Their survival now depended on trust. During the quiet, the queen shared glimpses of her world, her people, their culture, their intelligence. Elias realized that the aliens were not the mindless killers humans had painted them to be. They were a civilization capable of art, strategy, and emotion. They were not enemies. They were survivors. Elias thought of his own species. Humans prided themselves on courage, intelligence, and morality. And yet here he was, breaking every rule, risking everything, to save someone considered an enemy. Perhaps that was the true strength of humanity, the ability to see beyond hatred and fear. The following morning they resumed their journey. The landscape grew harsher with jagged cliffs and narrow ledges. At one point they had to cross a deep chasm. Elias spotted a fallen tree bridging the gap. Carefully, he led the queen across. Each step was tense, every moment a test of trust. The queen moved slowly but steadily, relying on Elias to guide her. Suddenly, a distant roar echoed across the canyon. Elias froze, his heart pounded. Something was coming, larger than any predator he had seen before. He raised his weapon, scanning the shadows. The queen's eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. "Do not fear," she said. "I will protect us, but you must fight if needed." A massive creature emerged, a hybrid of alien and predator, its body armored, claws sharp, eyes glowing with hunger. Elias stepped forward, ready to defend them both. The queen lowered herself, preparing to strike. Together they faced the threat. The battle was fierce. Elias fired steadily, hitting vital points, while the queen struck with precision and power. Despite the danger, Elias felt a strange exhilaration. He was fighting alongside a being everyone else considered a monster, and yet they were united, unstoppable as a team. Finally, the creature fell. Elias gasped for air, sweat and blood mixing on his skin. The queen looked at him, her massive head lowered in what he interpreted as respect. "Well done," she thought. "You are brave." Elias smiled faintly. "And you are not what I expected." "Neither are you," she replied. "Perhaps together we can change everything." As the sun set behind the cliffs, Elias realized their journey was just beginning. They were not only fleeing danger, they were seeking answers, a way to stop the manipulation that had forced her people into war. And the alliance that had begun on the battlefield now had to survive the perils of the wilderness, the pursuit of enemies, and the uncertainty of trust between species. For the first time in a long time, Elias felt hope. They would face whatever came next together. And perhaps in the process, humanity could prove its greatest strength: courage, morality, and the willingness to risk everything for what was right. The night settled around them, dark and full of unknown threats, but Elias and the queen were ready. For now, at least, they had each other, and that was enough to face the dangers ahead. The morning air was crisp and dry as Captain Elias Kane and the alien queen began their next stage of the journey. The cave they had used for shelter the night before was now behind them, a temporary refuge left for a world full of unknown dangers. Both were tired, yet neither could afford to rest too long. The horizon stretched into jagged mountains, a maze of stone and shadow that they had to cross to reach the ancient artifact, the key to stopping the force manipulating the queen's species. Elias glanced at her. Despite the scars and wounds, the queen moved with surprising grace. Her massive form might have seemed unwieldy, but her limbs and tail were precise, almost fluid. She walked beside him as if aware of the terrain, navigating narrow ledges and crumbling cliffs without hesitation. Elias felt a sense of awe mixed with unease. He had spent his life training for war, but nothing had prepared him for traveling alongside an alien leader who could easily crush him with a single movement. "You're amazing," he muttered under his breath. "Focus," she responded, not in words but in thought. "We must survive." Words are a luxury we cannot afford here. They descended into a narrow canyon where shadows stretched long across the jagged rocks. The path was treacherous. Loose stones threatened to give way underfoot, and sudden drops appeared without warning. Elias clutched his weapon tightly, scanning the darkness for any sign of danger. The queen, despite her size, seemed to sense every movement in the canyon, pausing when a falling stone suggested an unstable ledge. Hours passed in tense silence. The two communicated with short gestures, subtle signals, and the occasional telepathic thought from the queen. They shared no words aloud, there was no need. Each step brought them closer to the artifact, but also closer to unknown threats. Suddenly, the ground shook. Elias froze. From the shadows ahead, a massive predator emerged, its body a twisted combination of alien features and brute strength. Its glowing eyes locked on them immediately, and a low growl rumbled from deep within its throat. Elias raised his weapon instinctively, but he could see the queen preparing to strike. "This one is dangerous," he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. "We must act together." The queen's thought came sharply. "Trust me." The creature lunged. Elias fired repeatedly, but the beast was fast, dodging the blasts with agility that betrayed its massive size. The queen moved beside him, striking with her claws and tail, forcing the predator back. Elias realized something vital. This fight was not his alone. They had to work together. He adjusted his position, covering the queen's flank while she struck from the front. They moved as a single unit, human strategy and alien instinct combined in perfect harmony. The predator roared and charged again, but with coordinated attacks, they finally subdued it. Elias breathed heavily, heart racing. The queen glanced at him, her eyes glowing faintly, and Elias felt a spark of understanding between them, a bond forged in survival. "Good work," he said aloud, his voice rough from exhaustion. "You learn quickly," she replied, though only in his mind. "You may survive this journey yet." They continued, moving through a canyon that narrowed with each step. Water trickled in patches from a small underground stream, reflecting light from the rising sun above. It was the first sign of life they had seen in hours, and Elias allowed himself a brief moment of relief. They paused at the stream to drink, careful to remain hidden. The queen watched him closely, almost protective in her stance. Elias could feel her awareness, every slight movement of the canyon accounted for. As they rested, Elias asked cautiously, "How did your people get manipulated like this? How could someone control an entire species?" "Not control in the way you think," she responded. "Our minds are strong, but there is a signal, subtle and invasive. It can alter thoughts, instill fear, and force obedience. Many of my warriors did not know they were acting under influence. They believed they were defending their world." Elias frowned. "So, you were just trying to survive like me?" "Exactly," she said. "And now we must survive together." The sun climbed higher, and the heat pressed down on them as they climbed the rocky terrain. The artifact lay deep within the mountains, hidden in an ancient ruin, a place even the queen admitted was dangerous. They had to reach it before the enemy forces discovered their location, or all would be lost. Hours later, the canyon widened into a plateau, revealing a desolate landscape stretching for miles. Jagged peaks pierced the sky, and smoke from distant fires marked the locations of enemy patrols. Elias realized that the human coalition was still searching for them. Any encounter could end in death. He glanced at the queen. "We have to move fast. They'll find us if we linger here." "Then we move," she replied. As they traversed the plateau, the ground suddenly trembled again. Elias froze, spotting movement in the distance. A group of alien hunters emerged, larger and more organized than any they had encountered before. These were not wild predators. They were elite, trained to track and eliminate the queen at all costs. Elias' heart pounded. He whispered, "We can't fight them all. We need to hide." "Follow me," the queen commanded through thought. She led him toward a narrow crevice between two cliffs, almost invisible from the plateau. They slipped inside, pressed against the rock walls. Elias held his breath as the hunters passed, their armor clanking and weapons scanning. The queen's presence beside him was reassuring. He realized that her size, though dangerous in combat, now became an advantage. She could block their view and shield him from detection. When the hunters finally passed, Elias exhaled slowly. "That was too close," he said. "We are not done yet," the queen replied. "The artifact lies ahead, but so does greater danger." They pressed on, moving toward a jagged mountain range. The air grew thin and cold, and every step became more exhausting. Elias' muscles ached, but he refused to stop. He had committed himself to this path, and turning back was not an option. During a brief pause on a ledge overlooking a deep valley, Elias noticed strange symbols carved into the rocks, ancient, intricate designs. "These must be connected to the artifact," he said. "Yes," the queen replied. "The ruins ahead hold the key to stopping the manipulative force, but many have tried before and failed. Only those willing to risk everything can succeed." Elias nodded, determination hardening in his chest. "Then risk everything we will," he said. The descent into the valley was treacherous. Loose rocks, sharp edges, and sudden drops made every movement dangerous. Elias guided the queen carefully, using ropes and his strength to steady her as they moved down the cliffside. Her massive claws helped her grip the rock, but her weight made the path difficult for Elias to manage. Still, they moved together, each step a test of coordination and trust. As dusk approached, they finally reached the base of the valley. Before them stood the entrance to the ancient ruins, massive stone doors covered in more of the strange symbols. Elias' eyes widened. The structure was immense, older than any building he had seen, and its sheer scale was awe-inspiring. "This is it," the queen said. "The artifact lies within." Elias studied the doors. "Do you know how to open it?" Yes, she replied, but it is not easy. The mechanism is tied to the power of thought, intention, and trust. We must work together to succeed. Elias nodded. Together they approached the doors. He placed his hand on the stone surface, feeling a strange warmth radiating from within. The queen extended her claws, touching the carved symbols. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the doors shuddered, slowly grinding open. Light spilled out from within, illuminating the valley and casting long shadows across the rocky landscape. They stepped inside cautiously. The interior was vast, a labyrinth of corridors, chambers, and ancient technology. The walls pulsed faintly, as if alive, resonating with a strange energy. Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. He had never encountered anything like this. The artifact is close, the queen said, but we are not alone. Before Elias could respond, a sudden movement in the shadows revealed more threats, mechanical drones, perhaps left behind to guard the ruins. Elias raised his weapon, preparing for combat. The queen shifted beside him, her massive form ready to strike. The battle that followed was fierce. Elias fired carefully, taking down drones one by one, while the queen struck with precision and power. Despite their differences, they moved as one unit, coordinating instinct and strategy seamlessly. Every attack they made was calculated, every movement deliberate. Finally, the last drone fell. Elias panted heavily, wiping sweat and grime from his brow. The queen's body shimmered faintly with energy, as if acknowledging their success. "Well done," she said. "You are proving to be an invaluable ally." Elias allowed himself a small smile. "And you are not what I expected." "Neither are you," she replied. "Perhaps together we can succeed where others have failed." As they ventured deeper into the ruins, the artifact awaited them. But Elias knew the journey was far from over. Greater challenges lay ahead, tests of strength, courage, and trust. And beyond the ruins, the manipulative force would not sit idly by, for now, though, they had survived, together. And that was enough to face the dangers ahead. The ruins stretched endlessly before Elias Kane and the alien queen, their vast halls echoing with the hum of unseen energy. Stone corridors twisted and turned, lit by a faint, otherworldly glow. Every step Elias took made the air vibrate slightly, as though the building itself were alive, observing them. "Stay close," Elias whispered, gripping his weapon tightly. He had learned through experience that even the smallest mistake here could cost them their lives. "We don't know what's waiting." The queen's massive shadow fell over him, a protective presence. Her scales glimmered faintly under the alien light, and her eyes scanned the hall for threats. "Trust," she conveyed to him silently. "You must trust yourself." "I will handle what I can, but you must act where needed." Elias nodded. "I trust you." The words felt strange on his lips. He was not used to relying on another being, especially an alien, but the bond formed on the battlefield and during their journey had proven that together they were stronger. They moved deeper into the ruins. Strange glyphs adorned the walls, glowing faintly as they passed. Elias reached out to touch them. A pulse of energy ran through his fingers, and for a brief moment he felt knowledge and vision flood his mind. Images of battles long past, civilizations rising and falling, and a force older than the stars itself. "Do you feel it?" the queen asked through thought. Yes," Elias replied, his voice shaking slightly. "It's incredible, but dangerous." "It is the source of the manipulation," she explained, "and it tests those who approach it. Only those with courage and clear purpose may reach the artifact." Their path opened into a vast chamber. In its center, a pedestal rose from the floor, glowing with a faint, pulsing light. On it lay the artifact, a crystalline structure, large and multifaceted, radiating immense energy. Elias could feel it even from a distance, a force that seemed to reach into the mind and soul. Before they could approach, the chamber shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling, and from the shadows emerged more of the enemy forces. The manipulative drones, larger and more powerful than the ones in the canyon, their mechanical limbs glinting with deadly precision. Elias cursed under his breath. "They're guarding it," he muttered. "We must act carefully," the queen said. "We cannot let them destroy the artifact. You must cover me while I reach it." Elias moved into position, weapon raised. The drones advanced with calculated movements, targeting both him and the queen. Elias fired steadily, taking down those within range, while the queen's claws and tail struck with devastating accuracy. Together, they formed an unstoppable force, human strategy complementing alien instinct. Yet the drones were relentless. More emerged from hidden alcoves, forcing Elias to retreat slightly, drawing fire while the queen advanced toward the artifact. He realized that the final success of their mission depended entirely on trust. He had to believe that she would reach it, and she had to believe he could hold the line. Hours felt like minutes in the chaos. The chamber echoed with the sounds of gunfire, alien roars, and the mechanical whirring of drones. Elias' muscles ached, his fingers burned from gripping his weapon, and sweat and grime mixed on his face. Yet he did not falter. Every shot he fired was precise, every movement calculated. Finally, the queen reached the pedestal. She extended her claws toward the artifact. Energy flared, illuminating the chamber with a brilliant light. Elias shielded his eyes as the air vibrated with power. The artifact pulsed, responding to the queen's presence and intention. Focus on purpose, she thought to him. Clear purpose, clear mind. We can end this manipulation. Elias nodded, understanding instinctively. I want to protect life. I want to stop the war. I want to do what is right. The artifact's light grew brighter, almost blinding. The drones faltered, their programming disrupted by the artifact's awakening. Elias and the queen pressed their advantage, driving back the remaining enemies. Together, they created a pathway of survival and hope. But as the light reached its peak, the chamber began to shake violently. Stones fell from the ceiling, and cracks appeared in the floor. Elias realized that the artifact's power was destabilizing the ruins. They had to act fast. We must leave, the queen communicated urgently. The artifact is secure, but the structure cannot hold much longer. Elias grabbed her arm, helping her move toward the exit. The path was treacherous, debris falling around them. He could feel the ground shift beneath his feet. Almost there, he shouted over the roar of collapsing stone. They sprinted through the corridors, dodging falling rocks and blasts of energy from the artifact. The queen's immense strength allowed her to clear obstacles that would have trapped a human, while Elias' speed and agility kept them ahead of danger. Every step was a battle against time. At the final turn, a massive slab of stone fell, blocking the path. Elias cursed, looking for another way. The queen examined the blockage and extended her claws, finding a small gap just wide enough to squeeze through. Elias followed, barely making it before the ruins collapsed behind them in a thunderous roar. Dust and smoke filled the air as they emerged into the open, exhausted but alive. Elias looked back at the ruins, the glow of the artifact still faintly visible through the collapsing structure. "We did it," he said, his voice trembling. "We actually did it." The queen's eyes softened, and for the first time Elias sensed gratitude, almost like a bond beyond words. "Yes," she thought, "you have proven yourself. Together we have succeeded." But victory came with a cost. The surrounding landscape had shifted due to the collapse. Dangerous terrain and enemy patrols awaited them. Elias knew that their journey was far from over. They had secured the artifact, but the manipulative force would not simply let them leave. Greater challenges lay ahead. As they moved toward a safer location, Elias reflected on the choices that had led them here. He had defied orders, risked his life, and trusted an alien enemy. And in doing so, he had discovered a new kind of courage, the courage to act with empathy and morality even when it seemed impossible. The humans may not understand, he thought. They may see this as betrayal, but I know the truth, and I know that this was the right thing to do. The queen seemed to sense his thoughts. "Your courage is remarkable," she said. "It is the reason we survive. It is why your species has potential beyond war." Elias felt a rare sense of pride. He had always believed in humanity's strength, but this alliance, this act of courage, was something greater than any battle he had fought. It was a testament to what one individual could accomplish when guided by principle and bravery. As night fell, they found a secluded valley to rest. Elias set up a small, controlled fire while the queen rested nearby. The glow illuminated her wounded form, yet she radiated strength and resilience. He approached cautiously, placing a hand on her armored limb. "You'll recover," he said softly. "We'll both recover, and then we finish this." "Yes," she replied, "and we will succeed because you have shown me trust and courage. Together, nothing can stop us." The stars twinkled above them, distant and indifferent, yet filled with promise. Elias knew that the challenges ahead would test them in ways they could not yet imagine. They would face enemies, natural dangers, and the manipulative force itself, but they had learned to rely on each other. They had discovered a bond that transcended species, forged through shared danger and mutual respect. For the first time in years, Elias allowed himself to rest. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, but tonight they had won a victory of courage, morality, and human spirit. The HFY moment was not in the artifact, nor in the battle, but in the choice to act with empathy and bravery, even in the darkest moments. As they slept under the stars, Elias reflected on everything that had happened. He had risked his life for an enemy, defied orders, and survived impossible odds. And in return, he had gained something invaluable: trust, alliance, and hope for a future where humans and aliens could work together against a greater threat. Tomorrow would be harder. The manipulative force would not stay idle. But Elias Kane and the alien queen were ready. They had faced death, betrayal, and chaos, and they had emerged stronger. The turning point was here, and the final battle was approaching. Together they would face it. Together they would endure. And together they would show the galaxy that courage, morality, and the strength of humanity could change the fate of worlds. The sun rose blood-red over the jagged horizon, casting long shadows across the devastated landscape. Captain Elias Kane and the alien queen stood at the edge of a plateau overlooking the battlefield. Below, the forces of the manipulative intelligence, the ancient entity that had driven her species to war, were massing, preparing to strike. Elias tightened his grip on his weapon, scanning the scene. Drones, alien soldiers under the entity's influence, and strange constructs of metal and energy crowded the valley. Their numbers were staggering, but Elias had fought impossible odds before. He had survived when the world told him to die, and now he would not fail. Beside him, the queen stretched her massive limbs. Her armor glimmered under the rising sun, and though she was still wounded, her presence radiated authority and power. Her horde loyal alien warriors who had escaped manipulation gathered behind her, waiting for her command. Elias marveled at the trust they all placed in her, and in him by extension. This is it, the queen thought, reaching into Elias' mind with a gentle touch. We end this today. Are you ready? I've never been more ready, he replied aloud. His voice was steady, though his heart raced. Every human instinct told him fear, yet he felt calm. Courage was not the absence of fear, it was acting despite it. They descended into the valley. The enemy forces saw them and charged immediately, mechanical shrieks and alien roars filling the air. Elias and the queen moved as one. He fired with precision, taking out drones and weakened enemies, while she struck with devastating speed and power, clearing a path toward the manipulative constructs. The battle was fierce. Aliens and humans clashed, the ground trembling beneath the intensity of their fight. Elias felt his arms grow heavy, his muscles screaming with exhaustion, but he did not stop. Every shot, every maneuver, every life he saved mattered. Humanity depended not just on strength, but on courage, morality, and ingenuity. You fight well, the queen thought, almost fondly. Your species has more than strength, you have spirit. Spirit keeps us alive, Elias replied, gritting his teeth as he fired again, and we'll use it to win. The heart of the battlefield lay ahead, the central construct pulsing with energy, controlling the manipulated aliens. Elias and the queen fought their way toward it, the air thick with smoke, energy blasts, and the cries of combatants. The queen's horde formed a protective perimeter, allowing Elias to reach the core of the construct. He approached the glowing nexus, the artifact they had secured earlier resonating within him. The manipulative energy lashed out, testing his mind, seeking to instill fear and doubt. Memories of the battlefield, fallen comrades, and the weight of responsibility threatened to overwhelm him. Focus on purpose, the queen reminded him. You saved me, you act for life and justice. Let that guide you. Elias closed his eyes for a moment. I act for humanity. I act for survival. I act to stop this manipulation. With that clear intention, he reached the core. Energy surged through him, but he did not flinch. He channeled the artifact's power, connecting it to the queen's mind and the loyal horde around them. A pulse of light exploded outward, washing across the battlefield. The manipulative drones froze mid-step, their programming disrupted. Alien soldiers under the entity's control halted, confused, as the force influencing them weakened. Elias and the queen had done it. They had broken the control. But the manipulative entity was not defeated yet. A massive energy form emerged from the construct, taking shape like a swirling storm of darkness and malice. Its presence was overwhelming, pressing against their minds and hearts, demanding submission. Elias felt despair creep in, but he did not allow it. He gritted his teeth and shouted, We will not bow to you. The queen roared, a sound that echoed across the valley, rallying her horde and shaking the entity. Together, human ingenuity and alien instinct pushed back the darkness. Elia's courage acted as a conduit, spreading through the artifact and amplifying the queen's power. The two forces merged, human and alien, courage and instinct, forming a combined front the entity could not penetrate. Blinding light filled the valley. The entity screamed in fury, unable to maintain control. The constructs collapsed, drones fell inactive, and the manipulated aliens regained their free will. Elias and the queen stood together, unwavering, as the remnants of the enemy forces scattered. Finally, the storm of energy dissipated. The artifact pulsed gently, stabilizing, and the valley fell silent. The battle was over. Elias sank to his knees, exhausted, but relief washed over him. The queen approached and lowered her massive head to his level, her eyes glowing softly. "You have proven yourself," she thought. "Your courage and morality have saved countless lives today. Humanity has shown its greatest strength." Elias smiled faintly. "We did it together." "Yes," she replied, "together." Around them, the surviving horde rallied, their loyalty to the queen and now to Elias evident. Humans and aliens alike looked at one another, realizing that collaboration, trust, and bravery had brought them victory. Elias saw soldiers helping aliens, and aliens helping humans. The war that had been built on fear, manipulation, and hatred was ending not with death, but with unity. Elias took a deep breath, letting the gravity of the moment sink in. He had risked everything, defied orders, and trusted a being everyone else called a monster. And in doing so, he had changed the course of history. This is only the beginning, the queen thought, but today we have proven that life and courage can triumph over even the darkest forces. Elias nodded. Humanity and allies like you can face anything. We just need courage, trust, and the will to act. The queen extended a clawed hand, not in attack, but in solidarity. Elias placed his hand against it. They were allies, partners in a new era. Below the plateau, the valley began to heal. The surviving aliens returned to their homes, free from manipulation. Humans rebuilt outposts and tended to the wounded. The artifact, now stable and secure, would serve as a safeguard against any future attempts at manipulation. Elias and the queen stood side by side, overlooking the valley. The sun climbed higher, bathing the land in golden light. For the first time in years, Elias felt true hope. The galaxy had been saved from one threat, and perhaps humanity had proven that courage, morality, and the willingness to risk everything could inspire change far beyond a single life. Your species has potential, the queen said, not just for war, but for unity and growth. Today you have shown it, Elias smiled, and you've shown me that even the darkest enemies can become allies if given a chance. The queen tilted her massive head, a gesture Elias interpreted as agreement. Around them, the valley hummed with life returning, a testament to the power of courage, collaboration, and moral choice. Elias turned to the horizon. Ahead lay new challenges, other worlds, and other threats, but he was no longer alone. The bond between him and the queen, forged in the crucible of battle and trust, would guide them both. Humanity had faced darkness and emerged stronger. The queen's people had been freed from manipulation, and the galaxy, fragile as it was, had hope once more. As they descended into the valley to join the survivors, Elias reflected on everything that had happened. The battlefield, the caves, the treacherous journey through the mountains, the ancient ruins, all of it had led to this moment. One human had made a choice. One human had risked everything, and in doing so, he had not only saved the alien queen, but also countless lives and the future of both species. The HFY truth was clear. Courage, morality, and the willingness to act for what is right could change the fate of worlds. Humanity had shown its strength, not in firepower alone, but in spirit. Elias looked at the queen, and for the first time he felt something more than respect. He felt hope. Together they had survived impossible odds. Together they had triumphed over a force older than most civilizations. And together they would face the future, no longer as enemies, but as allies. The sun rose fully over the valley, bathing the land in light. Elias Kane, human warrior, had risked his life to do what was right. And in return, he had witnessed the incredible power of courage, empathy, and humanity. The galaxy was wide, full of dangers and possibilities, but Elias knew this. As long as humans held onto courage and morality, as long as they were willing to act, they could face any darkness and prevail. And somewhere beside him, the alien queen, a being once moments from death, stood tall and proud, a living testament to the power of trust and bravery. Together they walked into the valley, ready to face a new dawn, a new era, and the countless challenges of the universe. For today, humanity had triumphed.